Hi, my name is Tim. I'm a building inspector with the Pikes Peak Regional Building Department. Today we're going to talk about fire blocking and draft stopping in residential construction. We get a lot of questions about how to do it, where to do it, when to do it, and we hope we can answer some of those questions for you here today. Fire blocking is the process by which we stop the spread of smoke, flame, and gas from one concealed space to another, thereby stopping the spread of a fire and giving a homeowner or any occupant time to get out of a building or fight that fire. There are a list of approved materials: glass fiber insulation, mineral wool, 1/2-inch drywall, 3/4-inch plywood, or 2x nominal lumber. If you look up here, this is very often missed in a basement finish where we frame in front of a concrete wall. There's always a gap at the top. In this case, they've used glass fiber insulation to fire block that gap, and that is approved. Again, any of the approved materials will work in this situation, but it's very often missed. It makes for a faster frame inspection, less dry runs, and a faster basement finish project.
It's also missed sometimes because people think you can wait until the insulation phase of the build.
Exactly. It may be insulation and it may be taken care of by insulation, but once you've insulated the structure, we can't see the fire blocking anymore, and we can't be sure that it's done. So we want to make sure that we look at this at frame.
Okay.
Here we have the same glass fiber insulation used as a draft stop. Draft stop is the process by which we stop the horizontal spread of smoke, gas, and flame through a concealed space. We break it up into manageable portions, in this case every 10 feet. So every 10 feet down the wall, we're going to close it up with one of the approved materials. We'll talk more about draft stop in a moment. I'd like to show you some more fire blocking examples. When we have a soffit or a drop ceiling, such as here where we have mechanical equipment in a soffit, we need to stop the spread, smoke, gas, and flame from this concealed space into that concealed space, because then it has the run of the entire floor assembly. This can be accomplished with one of the approved materials. In this case, they're using glass fiber insulation. A minimum of 16 inches is required at the ceiling line down. So this works. You can also use mineral wool in this situation, or, as the name implies, use a 2x block, a fire block, at that ceiling line in the stud bay. That will also work. Let's talk about annular space. Annular space is the gap around an object that has penetrated a fire block. In this case here, the fire block is literally the top plate of this wall, but they have drilled a hole through it. We now need to protect that annular space. They've used an expanding foam. The residential code is not very strict on the materials you can use, but it does say that it should be designed to resist the spread of smoke and flame. Any home improvement store will have a fire caulk, an expanding fire foam. That'll work just fine. You can also pack that space with one of the approved materials: mineral wool, glass fiber insulation, tightly packed around that penetration. That works as well.
And you really got to pay attention to these penetrations, right? Because in each home, there's a lot of these. There's always wires penetrating through like this.
There are hundreds in every home, and the best method to find them all is to walk your walls one stud bay at a time, look up and see what concealed space that stud bay is communicating with. If it's going to send air or fire, smoke, and flame into another concealed space, we're going to want to fire block that penetration or bay. Another very important place to make sure your fire block is at your fireplace or any chases with mechanical equipment or pipes. If you have a concealed space that can communicate with a ceiling assembly, we want to fire block that. In this case, they used structural paneling and 2x nominal dimensional lumber in the stud bays. A fire starts inside this space, cannot travel past that fire block. You want to make sure that you fire block no higher than 10 feet. So if you have a very tall wall, such as this, a line of blocks no higher than 10 feet is going to be your fire block for those stud bays. I'd like to talk a little bit more about draft stop. Again, draft stop is the process by which we stop the transmission of air, smoke, flame, and gases horizontally through concealed spaces. It sounds like it's got something to do with keeping you warm or stopping drafts. It's really not that at all. It's about containing that fire into manageable portions of wall, in this case every 10 feet. They've used a glass fiber insulation vertically in this stud bay to stop that transmission of air. And again, 10 feet later, they do it again, all the way around the basement. They used this same method and same material in this soffit containing mechanical components. If a fire was to get into this soffit, it has free run of the entire floor assembly. So they've draft stopped it here, and 10 feet later again here, and again there. That way it contains that fire to a manageable portion. Another common area that we draft stop is where we have a concrete wall with framing in front of it, such as in a basement finish. Let me show you that. In this case, they've used a spray foam. They have a small gap behind the stud to the concrete wall, and they've used a spray foam to stop that draft. And they've used this all the way around. If we can stop the spread of air, we can stop the spread of fire long enough for an occupant to make a safe exit from the structure.
And there's no difference between the spray foam and the insulation. All of those are approved.
All approved materials for residential construction.
Okay. And again, this all comes down to life safety and giving the occupants more time to get out.
Yes, everything is combustible, everything succumbs to fire in time. We're giving you enough time to get out of the structure for life safety.
Yep.
So if you have any further questions about anything we talked about here, feel free to call your building inspector in the mornings between 7:30 and 9. We'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.